Welcome to another episode of Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Retirement Podcast, where certified financial planner Lauren Sherman shares thoughts on having a healthy mind, body, and spirit, an abundance of wealth inside portfolios and out, and lessons learned from clients and mentors over the years.
Welcome, everyone. On today's podcast, we talk through 12 questions to ask your financial advisor. Perhaps you've always been a do-it-yourselfer, or maybe you've worked with a handful of advisors over the years. Whatever your situation, more and more retirees are interested to see what an advisor who specializes in retirement planning has to offer. But finding the right fit can be tough. Armed with the following 12 questions, you will be well on your way to retirement prosperity rather than just survival. Don't miss out on number 12, as the simple reflection from this question alone may be even more helpful than the rest. Just a quick note before we jump into our 12-question list. In the spirit of transparency, I will share the answers to most of these questions specific to myself and our firm. Please don't take this as a sales pitch or anything more than offering transparency and just giving you a baseline to compare with. Let's jump in. Number 1, are you a fiduciary? We've stressed the importance of working with a fiduciary in the past, but to recap, this means that an advisor is not only ethically and morally obligated to act in your best interest, but legally required to as well. Essentially, what you're talking about here is the difference between a salesperson versus someone you've hired to be on your team where your interests are their number one priority. Let's compare financial advisors with how a car dealership works for a minute. At a car dealership, everyone knows that the Ford salesman is not going to tell you to head across town to the Chevy dealership and explain why a Chevy is a better fit for your needs. Instead, we all understand that we're in a sales situation and anticipate the salespeople of each dealership to do their best to convince us to go with their vehicle. This is also true of most financial firms, where their legal obligation is obviously not to a car dealership, but it is to their broker-dealer. In both cases, they are not legally representing you. Asking if your advisor is a fiduciary and searching online to confirm this is a big first step. I'll provide a link in the show notes titled Advisor License Check, so you can do this research on your own if you'd like. I've also included a PDF example so you have an idea what to expect. As a rule of thumb, if it says broker under their name, they are required to act on the interests of their broker-dealer. If it says investment advisor under their name, they are required to act on your best interests. If it says both, however, they can decide who they want to represent, which leads into our next question to ask. Question number 2, do you always act as a fiduciary? It seems silly we have to ask this follow-up question, but unfortunately, receiving honest and objective advice is not as easy as it should be. Advisors may not know how to answer this question, so you could rephrase it by asking, are you dual licensed as an advisor and a broker? Duly licensed advisors can wear 2 hats, one as a fiduciary and one as a salesperson. You may not be sure which you are receiving advice from. As the old saying goes, trust but verify, and this is where I think it's helpful to take a minute and confirm these details with the link we talked about labeled Advisor License Check. If you've read my articles or listened to past episodes, you probably know that this is a soapbox type of issue for me, as our firm certainly acts as a fiduciary at all times. Question number 3 to ask your financial advisor. Who is your typical client? It is important to know who your advisor works best with. Young couples, retirees, teachers, maybe farmers. You may not find an advisor who specializes in your exact situation, but it is important to know they have experience working with others similar to you. At our firm, we have a list of 7 different criteria to help people understand who we work best with, which you can find linked in the show notes under Who We Serve. Question number 4, do you have an investment philosophy? Of course, the obvious follow-up question is, what is it? While investment strategies will vary to each individual's needs, an advisor's investment philosophy is the bedrock for what they believe? I've found that the advisors who have trouble answering this question either don't have a strong conviction or they're trying to appease everybody they talk with. Instead, this should be where they plant their flag, stand on their soapbox, and speak with passion. If you don't connect with your advisor's investment philosophy, it will likely cause many problems down the road. We share our investment philosophy right on our website, so there's no hiding from it or bending our beliefs. Question number 5, how are you compensated? There are a variety of ways an advisor may be compensated. Some include sales loads directly from the funds they recommend, hourly or flat fees, asset fees based on the size of your accounts, commissions, or transaction fees when buying and selling investment positions. It could also be a combination of any of these. A good follow-up question is to ask if there are any additional fees that do not go to the advisor. It is important to understand your all-in costs and the value you receive in return. Any unnecessary expense, however small, can have a big impact when compounded over the course of retirement. We're not talking a few hundred or even a few $1,000s here or there. We're often talking about the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars when compounded during retirement. With our firm, as part of your retirement readiness analysis, we do a fee comparison showing where our firm would be versus where you're currently at, as we never want our clients guessing about fees. Let's move on to question number 6. What are your credentials? The tiny letters on an advisor's business card may seem inconsequential and even challenging to understand, but they show a dedication to mastering one's profession. However, not all credentials are created equal. Ideally, an advisor is either a CFA, which stands for Chartered Financial Analyst, a CFP for Certified Financial Planner, or PFS for Personal Financial Specialist. Ideally, they're one of those 3. They may also hold designations specific to your situation, such as RICP, Retirement Income Certified Professional, for the retiree developing an income plan, or CDFA, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, for someone going through a divorce. What you want to avoid are generic answers such as, I specialize working with retirees, divorcees, etc., without the credentials to support this claim. Once again, in the spirit of transparency, you can view a list and brief explanation of my credentials by clicking My Credentials in the show notes. With that said, we're not going to be the best fit for many listening to this podcast, so be sure to request the same from anyone you interview as your own financial advisor. Let's take a quick break here since we've reached the halfway point. So far, we started off by asking if the advisor is a fiduciary, and if so, are they always a fiduciary? These are great questions, but we've also included a link in the show notes where you can verify this for yourself. Next, we asked who their typical client is. In short, do they work with others similar to you? Essentially, you don't want to be client number 1 and be the test subject. And our 4th and 5th questions were to describe their investment philosophy and how they are compensated, along with our 6th question about the advisor's credentials. As a quick side note before we move on, if you are having to pry all of this information out on your own, it may not be the best sign. It doesn't necessarily mean the advisor is hiding anything, but if they are only reacting to your questions, this could be indicative of the relationship you would have. A great advisor will get out in front of these questions in a proactive way and is transparent without needing to be asked to do so. This is especially true because financial planning is hard for most people. They don't always know what questions to ask, and the advisor should guide them through any important topics that need to be covered. Let's move on to question number 7. Do you have a minimum investment requirement? Often advisors require you to invest a minimum amount of money to make the relationship viable. If you are below the minimum, it may be worthwhile to discuss if there are exceptions. For example, if you have a plan to invest more over time, or if the advisor offers alternative pricing models. It is important to talk through expectations upfront so everyone is on the same page and you can make the most of your relationship. At our firm, Integrity Wealth Management, we do not have a minimum investment amount or even require you to move your assets to take advantage of our services. With that said, our unique pricing model of a flat $6,000 annual fee means that we typically cost about the same as other advisors if you have assets in the $400,000 to $600,000 range, and we're typically a home run when comparing for those with $1 million and up. While we are transparent about this and it's worth sharing, at the end of the day, it's much more about the value that one receives than it is about the actual fee they pay. Let's move on to question number 8. How often can we expect to meet or communicate? It is important the advisor can lay out what an ongoing relationship will look like. Do you meet monthly, quarterly, or annually? Perhaps meeting frequency is flexible or strategic in nature. How you meet is also important. Some advisors offer in-person visits, virtual meetings, or a combination of both. We've found that offering both in-person and virtual meetings work best for us. Additionally, we follow a service calendar where we cover a different topic each month. This allows us to make big improvements with our clients, but in bite-sized and manageable steps. Moving on to question number 9. What services do you provide clients? Some advisors offer products for sale, and that is the end of the relationship. Others are considered investment only, where they manage assets throughout retirement, while comprehensive advisors take services a step further with a financial plan, tax coordination, Social Security strategies, insurance coverage, and much more. Understanding what you need and managing expectations up front will help you determine if a relationship is a good fit. It will also help you decide if you need to hire multiple professionals for each service you request. Our firm believes the most productive relationship is an ongoing one that covers all areas of retirement in a comprehensive manner. Because of this, we don't tend to be a good fit for those wanting one-time solutions or those who prefer to do everything on their own. Moving on to question number 10. How will you safeguard my assets? Asked another way, where do you custody? If an advisor ever asks you to write them a check directly, run the other way. They should always safeguard your assets by working with a respected custodian, or in the case of insurance products, a respected insurance company. Common custodians include TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Altruist, and so on. Question number 11. What can I expect if I meet with you? These 12 questions can often be asked over the phone or before meeting with an advisor, but what happens if you want to move forward? Advisors should be able to clearly lay out their process with complete transparency so you always know what is coming next. A well-prepared advisor may also share a list of helpful items to bring to your meeting or even give pre-meeting homework to complete. Knowing what to expect can reduce uncertainty and anxiety, making it more likely you will start working toward your goals and actually enjoy the experience. Our process, called Retirement Readiness, can be viewed in the show notes titled Our Process. And moving on to number 12, the last on our list. We have a few questions to contemplate, but these for yourself rather than your advisor. Do you like the advisor? Do you trust them? Do you see yourself working with them for many years? Do they listen, or are they just giving you a well-rehearsed pitch? Would you feel confident leaving your kids' or grandkids' finances with them should anything happen to you? An advisor could check all of the boxes, but if you cannot confidently answer yes to these last questions, the relationship has little chance of flourishing. I will link a complete list of these questions in the show notes, so feel free to print these off and bring them to your next meeting. I'm going to close by stressing that some of you will have no problem holding an advisor's feet to the fire and asking these tough questions. For others, it might feel a little confrontational and a bit out of your comfort zone. Just remember, you shouldn't feel shy about asking these questions, as your advisor is likely compensated quite well for the job, and when it comes to your retirement, it's best to be bold and ask those tough questions than to cross our fingers and just hope for the best. That wraps up this episode. Check out the show notes, as there are plenty of resources that we discussed this week, And as always, you can head on over to healthywealthywiseretirement.com if you would like to schedule a call or learn more.
Thank you so much for listening and supporting this podcast. If you've enjoyed listening, we would love if you took a quick moment to leave an honest review. Of course, we're shooting for 5 stars, but if you have suggestions to improve the show, we would love to hear from you too. Just click on the podcast name, Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Retirement Podcast, and scroll down to ratings and review. Thanks again for your support, as this helps us reach a wider audience and help even more retirees just like you. This podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and is not intended as a specific tax, legal, or investment advice. Lauren Sherman is a certified financial planner and co-owner of Integrity Wealth Management, an investment advisor serving retirees in search of their own healthy, wealthy, and wise retirement lifestyle.